Hi guys, welcome to the Kathy channel. This video is going to be in English. Este video va a ser en inglés, ¿ok? Ya el otro video, el último que yo hice fue en español, donde hablé del tema que voy a compartir hoy. So esperen para el próximo lunes. I'm just telling them to wait for next Monday that I'll do another one in Spanish. But right now it's going to be in English, and I want to do an equivalent about what I did in the Spanish version, but I did it with the song. This one I'm going to show in English a channel called Watch Mojo. They always have like lists. I don't know why I love lists. I always love watching Watch Mojo. The 10 this, the 20 this. I don't know. Maybe I don't know why I'm a list person, but I love that. Like the top 10 100, the 100 songs, everything always have. And this is the 10 conspiracy theories that turn out to be true. And the reason why I'm showing this is in tune with what I show in Spanish the last time I uploaded on this channel, where I was talking about how we are controlled by the government and certain families. Families, yeah, they're just families. They're not corporations. Those corporations are run by families who control the planet, who control the world as we know it. And we don't know exactly what's going on. The more we live and the more we see on the internet, we learn, we see the things that they have taught us were not true, and that they kept things that were true from us in school, in high school. And now, little by little, they're coming out. And we realize that what's presented to us might not be what really is, but what they, the government, and these powerful families want us to see. And that goes from the United States to Africa to Australia. It's the same everywhere. And these people don't control one country, they control the planet. I do believe, but I think this is more like the United, only about based on the United States, if I'm not mistaken. There might be, I don't remember, I saw it a while ago, and I decided I was going to share with you guys. So come with me and let's share this experience and we'll discuss it. These are 10 conspiracy that were thought to be conspiracy and ended up being true.
He had a blank look in his eye. He didn't know who we were. He didn't know we were his daughters.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 conspiracy theories that turned out to be true.
Oh, there's the president sitting there signing a document. What the heck were we worried about?
For this list, we'll be going over the strangest and most famous conspiracy theories that were actually conspiracy facts. Is there a theory you once believed that you now realize was a load of baloney? Tell us in the comments. Number 10. Roswell Cover-Up. In the summer of 1947, an object crashed down to Earth in Roswell, New Mexico. Theories that it was an alien spacecraft have pervaded pop culture for over a half a century since.
Everybody thinks that Roswell was the first sighting of a UFO in the United States, and that bull roar.
The U.S. Air Force claimed that the object was merely a weather balloon, only added fuel to the fire. And the conspiracy theorists were right. It was no weather balloon, and there was a cover-up. But it wasn't an alien ship either, probably. The object was a high-altitude balloon launched as part of Project Mogul. These balloons were intended to detect sound waves from Soviet atomic bomb tests. During the Cold War, the U.S. military couldn't exactly be honest about that in the papers. Now, whether you think that's another cover story, well...
This better not be another damn Russian spy job.
No.
So in this one, like the Roswell, we don't know yet. We don't know. And now it turns out to be that because one of the things that the government has says is, hey people, UFO is unidentified flying object. And an unidentified flying object doesn't mean that it's extraterrestrial. It means that we, the United States, don't know about it. You, the citizens of the United States, don't know about it. But that doesn't mean that other countries might have been making these objects, might be making these products, and we see them and we don't know about it, not even the United States. But I find that kind of like, I don't know. So then what's the point of having a CIA and an FBI, especially the CIA? What's the point of having spies and having all this technology if you don't know what your enemies are building or making? That's the whole point. But even if with the highest technical support that they can have and with the highest and the most expert tools to gather data from other countries, it's obvious that they're not going to know everything. So it's something that they have not found out. And when I mean they, now I'm talking about the government, and they see it, they're not going to tell us because first they want to identify what it is. And that's called a UFO. They first want, until they don't identify it, it's a UFO. Until the government doesn't say, okay, this is what it is. And that's another problem because that's where we get our information. It's from our governments. That's where we get our information.
Number 9, Big Tobacco's big lie.
There's extensive use of this technology, which is called ammonia chemistry, that allows for nicotine to be more rapidly absorbed in the lungs and therefore affect the brain and central nervous system.
Smoking causes lung cancer and a lot of other adverse health effects. Scientists demonstrated this definitively in the 1950s. However, public opinion wavered for decades, with sources springing up to generate controversy and debate. Some suspected that the tobacco industry was suppressing and distorting the facts through a coordinated campaign.
Yeah, because that's what they do. They suppress. And they also put out the information that they want. These powerful families have the money to persuade people. It's not what you know, it's what you perceive. Unfortunately, that's how we work as humans. It's what we perceive. So even though we might know that that's not true, we perceive it this way, we're going to think that, and they can manipulate that. And now it sounds like it's obvious. Of course, smoking is bad for you. Sounds so obvious. But believe it or not, and not only that, the tobacco company then used the indigenous, because the Indians that used smoke tobacco without nicotine, because it was natural, it's a natural plant, they used it for healing. Actually, they still do. A lot of indigenous community, they use tobacco for healing. They blow it around you. The Incas do that. They blow it around the person because they think that has magical power. And the tobacco company used that for a while. In the 50s, the scientists already knew and were saying, no, wait a minute, there's cancer. But these scientists were not working for the tobacco company because that's what they do. Then they pay scientists to say what they want to say. So then they bring out their own scientists and no, there's no problem with smoking. Actually, it's good for you. And you had doctors who were smoking too. Perception.
It eventually came out that they were. Together, the world's largest tobacco companies initiated Operation Berkshire to generate fake controversy and debate. Big Tobacco knew that smoking caused cancer and that nicotine was addictive. They decided not to make cigarettes less harmful because addiction made them a lot of money.
Now, the work we did here is confidential, not for public scrutiny, any more than our one's family matters.
You're threatening my family now, too?
Just goes to show, where there's smoke, there's often fire.
See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good tasting a cigarette can be.
Number 8, the White Sox through the World Series. The Chicago White Sox are on record for having one of the longest droughts between winning World Series at 87 years. However, they weren't always known for their bad luck. Back in the late 1910s, the Sox won in 1917, and they even had a wonder like Shoeless Joe Jackson on the team. Yet, rumors during the 1919 series held that the games were fixed. The White Sox lost the series, but the rumors persisted into the next year. Eventually, a grand jury found evidence that 8 players, including Jackson, though his role is disputed, were involved in a conspiracy to receive money in exchange for throwing the series.
I think the Black Sox players saw a high reward for what they were doing. They could make as much as their yearly salary in 1 week for fixing the World Series.
While a trial found them not guilty, they were nevertheless banned from the league permanently. Number 7, nefarious agents infiltrated the government. The Church of Scientology is infamously touchy about any criticism of their organization.
Get out! I didn't mean anything by it. I don't even know L. Ron Hubbard.
Their influence over celebrities is well known, but theories about their influence over the government are also out there. And here's the thing. Scientologists really did infiltrate the government. In the 1970s, at least 5,000 members of the organization conducted espionage on government agencies and private organizations. And this wasn't a fringe element either. The founder's wife, Mary Sue Hubbard, pleaded guilty and went to prison. It was one of the largest scale infiltrations of the U.S. government in history. All of this was done with the aim of destroying evidence that painted Scientology in an unfavorable light. It arguably had quite the opposite effect.
Boy, those Scientologists, they can be pretty sensitive.
Number 6.
Perception, again, perception. That's powerful. Perception is more powerful than reasoning. Perception is more powerful than the truth. And the media, and now social media, know this. And the government known this for years, for centuries. Because, the Vatican did the same thing. They hid the Nazis. They hid that the concentration camp were going on. So perception. That's what they want to do. What they want to show you. And if they have the platform and the money, and they got the platform to do that, they will do it. They will put doubts in your mind. You see the reality, you see it right there in front of you, but they can twist it around and say, nah, what you see is not what it is. But then it ended up being that exactly.
The FBI spied on political activists.
All power to all the people!
Those involved in political protests and other activist causes are often paranoid that they're being watched. And they should be, because it's happened before and it can happen again.
Tapes from the hotel rooms, FBI reports, those are pieces of information that we shouldn't have.
From the late 50s to the early 70s, the FBI engaged in illegal surveillance, infiltration, and disruption of protest movements and other organizations deemed subversive.
He realized how sick this country was. We were trying to reveal the truth about segregation.
These ranged from independence movements to civil rights movements to feminist organizations. They even had John Lennon, the former Beatles frontman, under watch. While this program named...
And they were making it hard for them to get their green cards, affecting their legal status in the United States. He went on to a show and said it. But people, again, don't believe this. And those that know, because then the other problem, that's why it's never going to be solved, because humanity is so diverse and people think so differently from one another that we're never going to get together as a group, as a force to combat the government and combat these powerful people, because some people don't care that they're being watched or they're being listened to. I have read and listened to people say, oh, the government is watching me. It's okay. I got nothing to hide. But it's not a matter of hiding something. It's a matter of somebody is watching what you're doing and keeping track of what you're doing. And by the way, by saying I'm not doing anything wrong, then you're saying that all these people that were watched were doing something wrong. Martin Luther King. Okay, by the way, Martin Luther King was not only for Black rights. He was also for LGBT rights. He was also for women's rights. And he was more than anything else for powerful, for rich against the rich. He was more like, hey, listen, we got to fight poverty, because poverty is the main problem that we're having. Racial issues and financial problems. That's what the citizens need. So his next move was going to be to target poverty. They didn't like that. That's capitalism.
COINTELPRO was abolished in 1971. Others may have taken its place.
This represents the darkest part of the Bureau's history.
Number 5, the first female U.S. president. While the United States has yet to elect a woman to the office of president, by electoral college anyway, some theorize that a woman has assumed the duties of the office already. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson suffered a debilitating stroke. This left him bedridden and partially paralyzed with some impaired judgment.
If I don't help him be president, what kind of wife am I?
For over a year, Wilson's wife Edith aided him in governing the country, to the point where she was basically performing his job in all but name. The degree of her involvement was kept a close secret, and Wilson herself denied that she made executive decisions until her death.
So he's like sitting there, and they like move his arm, and then they just release that to the press, and that's how dumb people were back then.
Yeah, that's how dumb people were back then. Any difference than nowadays? Again, perception. And can you imagine that? Why would she have to assume that? That's one reason One of the reasons why the United States, people in the United States will not believe that is because we have a VP. Didn't they have a VP? Woodrow Wilson, didn't he have a VP? Why lie? Why tell the people, this guy had a stroke and the VP? That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. It goes there. We have our steps in there. It's in the Constitution. It's in the way we govern. So why would she have to be that conspiracy theory that we had a female president? It's like, why? And why would she have to take that role? Why couldn't they come out forward and say, hey, he had a stroke, he's not capable? We even have in our Constitution an amendment where we can get rid of a president when they're not capable. So, that was not necessary. If that happened, it was not necessary.
Number 4, the government is spying
Unless there's a reason that we don't know about.
on you. The common refrain for cranks and conspiracy nuts for decades.
You see, that one I didn't believe. That was one like when people on Facebook came out. I remember they were telling me, hey, don't use my friends, don't use Facebook because all your information stays there and the government is watching, the government is using that. I'm like, no. And then this guy Snowden came out with telling us that they were not only on Facebook, but they were listening to our conversation, our cameras in our laptop, like this one right now. This has a camera. I didn't turn it off. I could turn off the camera. Right there, it's off. I don't know if you guys can see the icon that came, but it's on. So, yeah. But the good thing is that so many of us that they can't keep track. And the bad thing is that they were also doing it, listening to our conversation and watching us. People who were related to us or close to us, like boyfriends, girlfriends. That's not cool. That's using your position of power to infiltrate other people's life and to help yourself. That's taking advantage.
It has been that the government is watching our every move. And it's not completely wrong. With the rise of smartphones and the internet, the government has unprecedented access to information on its citizens.
They're following us.
In the wake of 9/11, the Bush administration initiated far-reaching mass surveillance programs, both foreign and domestic. The NSA's activities in the years since have included sucking up and storing online history, emails, metadata, text messages, you name it. Edward Snowden revealed a lot of this info with his leaks, including how other governments were also implicated.
Even if you send it to somebody within the United States, your wholly domestic communication between you and your wife can go from New York to London and back and get caught up in the database.
Few believe that in the time since, governments have just given up. Number 3, false justification for war. In August 1964, the USS Maddox fired a warning shot as 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats approached the Gulf of Tonkin. After the torpedo boats opened fire, the Maddox sank all 3. 2 days later, the report of a second attack prompted President Lyndon B. Johnson to authorize further military action in Vietnam. For years, people questioned this justification.
At one point, the commander of the ship said, "We're not certain of the attack." Another point, they said, "Yes, we're absolutely positive." And then finally, late in the day, Admiral Sharp said, "Yes, we're certain it happened."
It was eventually revealed that the second attack was imaginary, based on wrongly interpreted communications intercepts. It wasn't the last dubious rationale for war. In 1990, George H.W. Bush leveraged false testimony.
And I was around for that time. I was around for this one. And I believe him. At first I did, just like every other American. I believe him. I thought they had weapons of mass destruction. And I was like, I remember arguing with someone that she was saying, "You're crazy, he's going to start a war." And I'm like, but if they attacked us, I even said that they attacked us, and they never attacked us. Ah, God. So perception again.
The ship said, "We're not certain of the attack." Another point, they said, "Yes, we're absolutely positive." And then finally, late in the day, Admiral Sharp said, "Yes, we're certain it happened."
It was eventually revealed that the second attack was imaginary, based on wrongly interpreted communications intercepts. It wasn't the last dubious rationale for war. In 1990, George H.W. Bush leveraged false testimony crafted by a public relations firm to initiate the Gulf War. Over a decade later, his son would falsely claim that Iraq possessed WMDs to justify an invasion.
The people of the United States and our friends and allies will not live at the mercy of an outlaw regime that threatens the peace with weapons of mass murder.
Number 2, Watergate scandal. Perhaps the most well-known political conspiracy of all time, the Watergate scandal was unthinkable when it occurred.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook.
The scandal began when Republican President Richard Nixon's administration illegally wiretapped and broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters.
We don't know who ordered the burglary, and we don't really know what the burglars were up to that night.
Their aim was to acquire information about Nixon's opposition in the forthcoming election. The arrest of the perpetrators led to attempts by Nixon and his administration to cover up their involvement. However, mounting evidence and leaks soon exploded into a scandal that has become a byword for political disgrace, leading to Nixon's resignation.
One of the things that's so hard to recreate and understand now, looking back, is there was no sense that the president could lie to the American people.
Things have changed, Garrett.
Things have changed today.
Number 1, the CIA conducted mind control experiments. The idea of a government agency trying to control people's minds might sound like science fiction, but it really happened.
Prostitutes would lure men to these apartments, and then once the men were in the apartments, they were dosed with LSD, and then they were basically studied by CIA scientists.
In the 1970s, a commission on the CIA's activities within the U.S. exposed the existence of Project MKUltra, a secret program that used drugs and torture to manipulate its victims' mental states.
Kool-Aid was spiked with LSD. It was horrible.
These experiments were conducted on prisoners in secret detention centers around the world, as well as within American universities, hospitals, and prisons. The CIA also funded brutal experiments involving electroconvulsive therapy in Montreal, Canada. Victims of MKUltra included Ken Kesey and Allen Ginsberg. It's one of the darkest conspiracies out there, and we still don't know the full extent of it. Did you enjoy this video?
So it's interesting. It's interesting completely because there's so many conspiracy out there, and that's why people believe them also, because we know we've been lied. Because there's been conspiracy out there that people were saying, no, that's a conspiracy. The government would never do that. They would never do this. And they ended up doing it. So we are being controlled and we are being manipulated. And it's so difficult to find the truth. It is so difficult to find it. It's muy difícil. It's difficult because we don't know what they give us, and even on the internet, what they show us, what they expose out there. And I believe the government is also involved in the internet. I think that Anonymous was infiltrated by the government, but that's my belief. I have no way to prove it, but I do believe that they have infiltrated everything. And now things are coming out that they infiltrated Twitter, and they were trying to manipulate information like they did with COVID and other cases, other situations. Anyhow, if you like this reaction and this commentary, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I'm going to do another one on Watch Mojo that I have that was also 10 conspiracies that we thought were conspiracy and ended up being true. We have to be awake. We have to be open. And when I mean awake, I mean we have to be willing to accept that what we know and what we see might not be true. That it might be a perception that these people construe so that we can believe what they want us to believe. Anyhow, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Bye.